Hey people, it is Friday, July the 8th. Time is 8:35 in the evening, and the temperature is currently 24 degrees Celsius. I'm just walking along Jarvis Street, heading south. Just past Queen Street East. And it's a mild Sunday? Friday. Why do I think it's Sunday? It's a mild Friday evening. And we're going to head down towards the lake shore. And maybe if the timing's right, we might catch some sunset views. Look down Richmond Street. So I think we'll head straight down to Lower Jarvis, all the way down to Queens Quay. There's a look towards the financial district.
I don't sell it, but you want some? Yes, I get it.
And just coming up to Adelaide Street, and that's St. James Park there. It's one of the nicer small parks in the immediate downtown area.
I'm looking for a side table.
And today was a bit of an interesting day. There was a nationwide outage in the Rogers network, which is one of the three major internet suppliers here in Canada. So a big chunk of the Canadian population was without internet service today. And it began at I think 4:30 in the morning, and it's only just now that service is starting to come back online. And as I mentioned, it's around 8:30 in the evening now. So that's a pretty lengthy outage, and I think they have a lot of explaining to do. And a lot of apologizing. It sort of caused a bit of chaos in some corners of society today. I don't use Rogers personally, so I wasn't really all that affected. We're just crossing King Street. is the new St. Lawrence Market North building, which is coming along quite nicely. Got some very attractive cladding. That building was a long time coming. After they began the initial excavation, the site sat dormant for a couple of years, I think, because they came across some archaeological artifacts, and when that happens they have to immediately stop excavation and get some archaeologists in to investigate, and that sort of delayed construction for quite a long time. And then finally, when that was all settled, they were able to resume construction, and it went up rather quickly from that point. And there's the main St. Lawrence Market building immediately south. And this is Front Street. This is quite a busy area here on a Friday evening. Here's a better look at the front side of the North Market building. This almost makes me want to abandon my plan and just do a walk around the St. Lawrence Market neighborhood, as it seems rather bustling right now. But there will be plenty of other days. St. Lawrence Market area is usually busy most of the time, especially on weekends, and especially in the summer. Perhaps I'll come by tomorrow in the afternoon. That's quite the ear-splitting alarm going off there. And that's the temporary market building that has been in place for a number of years while they've been waiting for the new North Market to complete construction, and that will be coming down once that new building is ready. And then I'm not sure what will become of this lot here, perhaps a new redevelopment. So just crossing the Esplanade. Got some of these new bus lanes here. So this is Lower Jarvis now, after crossing Front Street. And we've got the moon And those two new buildings are certainly getting quite tall. Just walking under the rail corridor. And just ahead is the Gardner Expressway. And this is where you encounter lots of aggressive drivers. Almost any point where streets intersect with the Gardner or pass underneath it, there's a bit of a traffic situation with angry, frustrated drivers. This area changes so quickly. It's almost like every few months I have to come down and do a video just to capture what's different. A new building might have begun excavation in just a few months' time, or buildings under construction might have topped out. Now let's take a quick little jaunt through here. This is a relatively new little feature here in the neighborhood. At the base of these condo buildings and this new office building here. Got a neat little collection of restaurants and shops here. And it seems to be pretty lively. And they've even got got games. Got a DJ. I mean, got all kinds of stuff going on here. More than I was expecting anyway. Certainly wasn't expecting a DJ. Yeah, just about maybe in a burrito store and a pizza place right beside one another. This is my kind of development. And Indian street food. I have to say, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. I'm just trying to continually talk over the music as I walk past there.
I don't know.
Not sure if this person is coming or going. Okay, I guess they're coming. And here's another huge excavation across the street for another development. And of course, cranes on the horizon. Car trouble seems to be the case. Here's a large Loblaws grocery store. I've never been inside this one. I have been in most of the grocery stores in the downtown area at one time or another, but I have yet to set foot inside this one. I do have another Loblaws closer to my place than this that I do frequent. You may know of it. The Maple Leaf Gardens is. Or was. And there's the lake over there. We'll get a closer look at that there. I'm gonna cross the street at some point. Seems everywhere I go, I just see these two buildings sort of dominating the neighborhood. And there's the Redpath Sugar Refinery. It's one of the last remaining still operating industrial facilities here along the central waterfront. And this is the new head office of the LCBO, along with a new flagship retail store here. And the new head office building is a rather plain, boxy looking affair, but at least the materials are fairly high quality, as are most office buildings in the city, to be honest. Condos is another story. It's rather hit and miss.
This one looking at apartment now.
One of the more interesting residential developments along the waterfront. What it lacks in height, it makes up for in unusualness. And this one was also interesting. Although the glass is not all that amazing and a bit too much spandrel in my opinion on this lower part here. Just passing by the Toronto Star head office here at 1 Yonge. This is an older office tower from the early 1970s, and it's slated to be altered as part of this massive development here at 1 Yonge, where they'll be adding some additional floors on top and making some changes to the facade, but largely retaining its sort of brutalist concrete look, which I think is good. It'll at least still stand out and offer a bit of contrast to all the glassy newer buildings that surround it now. I think the original plan was to reclad it with glass, but I think they made the right decision in deciding not to go with that plan. There's a look straight north up Yonge Street. This is where Yonge Street begins. And it goes at least as far as, I'd say, between Newmarket and Barrie, I believe, where it diverges at that point and isn't really the same street anymore. Even if it does call itself Yonge Street at some points north of there, it's really a different street once it's passing through Barrie. But it does go past Newmarket for sure as one continuous street with the same name, which is quite a long distance. It was once regarded to be the longest street in the world, and that's because Yonge Street and Highway 11 were thought to be the same stretch of roadway, and Highway 11 extends all the way to northwestern Ontario. But as I mentioned, it does diverge at some point, and Highway 11 is not really Yonge Street in the true sense of what a street really should be. This is where you can catch some water taxis that will take you out to the islands, which you can see off in the distance there. And I've shown these before, but these are some distance markers showing how far it is here from the foot of Yonge Street to some various communities along Highway 11, which, as I mentioned, isn't really Yonge Street. This is why it was once regarded as the world's longest street. Like 830 kilometers, 927 kilometers, 1444, and this was considered the end of Yonge Street, 1896 kilometers away. And I still have this here, a bit outdated now, the longest street in the world. And it was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest time. It's no longer listed in the Guinness Book with that title. And of course, the CN Tower was once listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the tallest freestanding structure in the world. And that's no longer the case too. So Toronto is just being robbed of its world records here.
Yeah. And I was like,
So let's just head over here. We'll get another look at the lakefront. We'll check out the ferry terminal. Apparently there were massive crowds last weekend, people trying to get to the island. And a lot of people were blaming that on, you know, the surge to normalcy and all that sort of thing. But to be honest, way before the pandemic, there were always massive crowds on weekends to get out to the islands. It wasn't any different than a usual summer weekend in the city going back decades, but people like to play up the situation, I suppose. But no crowds right now. Tomorrow afternoon, though, if you come here, it'll be pandemonium. And this is Jack Layton on his bicycle. He's a former city councillor and then later the leader of the NDP party, and the ferry terminal is named after him. He passed away, I think, in 2012. Very popular local politician. And we found some boardwalk. The boardwalk isn't continuous. Sort of goes off and on in sections along the waterfront. And it's rather uneven to walk on. My feet keep scuffing. And there you can see one of the island ferries making its way back to the city. And some water taxis going to and fro.
You didn't have all these jokes.
You didn't play MW2? Oh, you missed out.
What was your favorite game? Bro, Black Ops 2 is my favorite game.
Oh, that was good.
Hands down, Black Ops.
And this is interesting here. It's an island full of wild creatures. Monkeys, bear, alligator. Even got a fish out of water.
Bears, dogs, porcupines, otters, skunks, kangaroos, rabbits, and tigers.
Happy Castaways is the name of this piece. Let's see. Some dogs. Hopefully they don't drift out into the lake, never to be seen again. They might find themselves on the shore of New York State and get adopted by some Rochesterians. Here's another little bit of boardwalk. I remember one time I was recording through here and this was all completely flooded and was not accessible. And you can see how much below the level of the boardwalk the water is right now. So you could imagine how high the water levels were for it to completely flood this boardwalk.
I thought, what are his freaking shows in like Newark? Moi, c'est poche. Poche, je weiß das. Aromatique. Like, ideally, I just
And it's almost at the point where the CN Tower's LED lighting will start to become visible, illuminating the whole area around the tower. And you can get some famous beaver tails. It's a delicious Canadian pastry that, you guessed it, looks like a big beaver tail in its shape and size. And this is the foot of York Street. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. Hope you enjoyed the walk. Heading into a Friday evening sunset here, where we walked down through the St. Lawrence Market area and along Lower Jarvis to Queens Quay, and then along Queens Quay, checking out some lakefront areas, and ending up right back at Queens Quay again here at the foot of York Street. So leave a comment below if you enjoyed the walk, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also make sure you hit that notification bell, that way you won't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal, as well as via my merch store and the recently enabled Super Thanks button right down below. And you can also find me on Instagram under KContinuum. So thanks for watching, and be sure to keep checking back because, as always, I will continue.